Welcome back to the Vedic Mystics channel. Today, we delve into a fascinating concept in Vedic astrology, that of the Arudha Lagna. Arudha Lagna reveals something deeply insightful. It shows how the world perceives you, not who you truly are on the inside, but how others think you are. It's your projected image, your public persona. This brings us to a crucial question that arises time and again in astrology. Whose perspective does the birth chart represent? When an astrologer looks at your chart and says, "You will be wealthy," what does that really mean? Wealth, after all, is subjective. To a billionaire, a millionaire might not feel wealthy at all. But to the average person, a millionaire is the very definition of success. So, how does Vedic astrology account for this difference in perception? This is where the different lagnas in Vedic astrology come into play. In Vedic astrology, there are many lagnas, each offering the ability to read the chart from a different perspective. The three most commonly used are the ascendant, the moon, and the sun. The ascendant represents reality, what is actually happening in your life. The moon, representing the mind, shows how you feel about those events. The sun, representing the Atma, your inner soul or higher self, shows your ideals, what you believe should be. These three are often used when individuals want to understand themselves more deeply. Here's an example to help clarify. There are many today who feel they should not have children, perhaps because they believe they would be doing the child a disservice by bringing them into a difficult world. This is the sun's perspective, the view of the ideal based on dharma and principles. However, they may still have a deep emotional longing to have children. That's the moon's perspective, shaped by feelings, desires, and mental patterns. And in reality, they may or may not end up having children. This is seen from the ascendant. So, the ascendant tells you what is, the moon tells you how you feel, and the sun tells you what you believe. But what about how others see you? This is where the Arudha Lagna comes in. By reading the chart from the Arudha Lagna, you can uncover your public image, how the world perceives you, regardless of what you feel or believe. It's a powerful tool that shows what kind of persona you project, sometimes unknowingly, into society. We'll spend the next few slides walking through the calculation of the Arudha Lagna. Don't worry, it's actually quite simple once you understand the logic behind it. The method comes from a foundational concept in Vedic astrology called Bhavadbhavam, the idea of higher octaves. Let's take an example. The ninth house is considered the higher octave of the fifth house because it is the same number of signs away from the fifth as the fifth is from the ascendant. In other words, from the ascendant to the fifth is five signs. Count five more signs from the fifth and you arrive at the ninth. Remember, counting is always done inclusively in Vedic astrology. We apply the same idea when calculating the Arudha Lagna. Here's how you do it. First, determine the lord of the Lagna, the planet that rules the ascendant sign. Then, count how many signs it has moved from the Lagna. Now, from the position of the Lagna lord, count forward by that same number of signs. The sign you land on is your Arudha Lagna. But here's an important exception. Our public persona is never exactly who we truly are, and certainly not a reflection in the mirror. That's why, according to tradition, the Arudha Lagna can never be in the same sign as the ascendant or in the seventh sign from it. So, what happens if your calculation lands in the first or seventh sign? In that case, we shift the Arudha Lagna by 10 signs forward. That means If your result is the first house, your Arudha Lagna will be the 10th. And if your result is the 7th house, your Arudha Lagna will be the 4th. Let's go through a few examples to make the Arudha Lagna calculation more concrete. Here's the first chart, which follows the general rule. In this chart, the ascendant sign is Leo. The lord of Leo is the sun, so the sun is the Lagnesh. Now, locate where the sun is placed in the chart. Let's say it's in Aries. So, how many signs away is Aries from Leo? Let's count. Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries. That's 9 signs away. Now, starting from Aries, where the sun is, count forward 9 more signs. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius. And there we have it. The Arudha Lagna is Sagittarius. This is a straightforward example with no need for special adjustment. In our next example, we'll look at a case where the calculation brings us back to the ascendant sign and triggers the adjustment rule. In this chart, the ascendant is Virgo. The lord of Virgo is Mercury. Now, suppose Mercury is placed 7 signs away from Virgo in Pisces. To calculate the Arudha Lagna, we count 7 from Pisces, and that brings us back to Virgo. But remember, the Arudha Lagna can never be the first house or the ascendant. So, what do? We apply the adjustment. We count 10 signs forward from Virgo. So, Gemini becomes the Arudha Lagna. Now, for a final example, where the calculation lands in the 7th house, triggering the second exception. In this chart, the ascendant is Gemini. The lord of Gemini is Mercury. Let's say Mercury is placed 10 signs away from Gemini in Pisces. So, starting from Pisces, count 10 signs. We land in Sagittarius, which is the 7th house from the ascendant Gemini. But as we have learned, the Arudha Lagna cannot fall in the 7th house from the ascendant. So, we apply the adjustment again. We count 10 more signs forward from Sagittarius. And so, Virgo becomes the Arudha Lagna. Now that we have the Arudha Lagna, how do we actually use this? It's simple. Just treat the Arudha Lagna as if it were the ascendant and read the chart from that point. That means the first house from the Arudha Lagna now becomes the house of public personality, how the world sees you. This is different from who you are internally. It's your image, not your essence. For example, while your actual ascendant may show someone shy or reserved, your Arudha Lagna might be in a fiery or charismatic sign, and that's how people may perceive you. The first house from the Arudha Lagna shows your public identity, your reputation, and the mask you wear, consciously or unconsciously, in social and professional life. And just like with any chart reading, you can interpret all 12 houses from this new reference point. The second house from the Arudha Lagna shows how others perceive your wealth or speech. The 10th house shows your public role or perceived career status, and so on. Now let's look at an actual chart to see the Arudha Lagna at work. This is the chart of King Edward VIII, the former King of England, who famously abdicated his throne to marry the love of his life. Or at least, that's the public perception. King Edward was seen as modern, glamorous, and relatable. He had a movie star charm, stylish, charismatic, and immensely popular. In fact, he was often called the most photographed man in the world. And when he chose to give up the crown for love, It only added to his romantic and admirable image. But reality, that was something quite different. Privately, King Edward VIII was known to be insecure, egotistical, and even a Nazi sympathizer. He openly admired Hitler, and while his love story with Wallis Simpson is famous, he had numerous affairs, particularly with other American women. This sharp divide between public image and private truth is clearly visible in his chart. His Lagna node or Lagnesh is Saturn, and Saturn is heavily afflicted by Rahu, Ketu, and Mars. This suggests inner turmoil, karmic confusion, and ego driven behavior. But now look at his Arudha Lagna. The Arudha Lagna Lord, Venus, is influenced by Jupiter. Venus brings charm, attractiveness, luxury, and refinement. Jupiter adds grace, nobility, and expansion. This paints the image the world saw: a dashing, cultured, noble man who was a symbol of love and sacrifice. The contrast is striking, and this is exactly what the Arudha Lagna reveals. Not the person as they are, but the person as they appear to be. As we have seen, the Arudha Lagna is a powerful tool in Vedic astrology. It helps us understand the image we project, often very different from who we truly are. By studying the chart from the Arudha Lagna, we gain insight into how others see us, how we influence the world, and even why we are treated in a certain way by society. It's a reminder that in astrology, as in life, there's always more than one perspective. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Vedic Mystics for more insights into the timeless wisdom of the stars.